Live performances. Yeah. I reckon that should be it, you know. Thing to try, number 1. If you're preparing for a gig, practice performing your set when you're at band practice. If you have a point in your set where a song leads directly into the next song, you need to know exactly how that's going to go. If you have points in the set where one of you is going to talk or two of you are going to talk, you need to know exactly how that's going to go. You need to know if you've choreographed some like synchronized jump or something. You need to know exactly when that's going to happen, how that's going to happen, and who's going to do it. And the only way that you're going to know how to do that is if you prepare while at band practice. Thing to try, number 2. Try dressing in a quirky way. We've mentioned this before about making sure your band has an image, but you could take that one step further and wear a costume of some kind, wear really striking clothes that make you stand out. Because there are so many bands that just go for the casual look, and if you're someone that goes to gigs a lot and you see a lot of bands, then it becomes really bland. So if you're that one band that dresses in a really weird way, they're going to remember you. Obviously, if the music you're playing doesn't really portray a quirky look, then don't go for a quirky look. I wouldn't expect you to wear ridiculous clothing and then just go out playing indie. If you're playing really avant-garde music, then dressing in a weird way might benefit you really well. Thing to try, number 3. Explore the stage. The stage doesn't start and end in your little zone. It's very easy for someone who's in a beginner band to just stay there with your feet firmly planted in one little bit of the stage and never leave that 2 square foot. Don't do that. If the stage is big enough, go for a wander. Just move around the stage. Really make good use of the space that you have. Fill the stage. It'll really amplify your presence on the stage and therefore help you stick in audience members' minds a lot easier. It's also not uncommon for certain singers to be like, "Don't come in my area, this is my area, don't you dare come anywhere near me on stage." Fuck that. The stage is for the band and you are in the band, so make use of the stage. Thing to try, number 4. Interact with your crowd. Even if it's just eye contact. It's so much better for an audience member just to connect with the band on that little bit of a personal level. Talk to your crowd. They're people too. They want to connect with you. A really interesting way of going about that would be if you have a bridge in a song where it dies down or it goes really mellow. Start a chat, start some kind of back and forth. Make sure you plan ahead if you're going to do this. If you have a song that's preferably near the end of your set with like quite a quiet breakdown in the middle of it, that is a really good place to make any announcements that the band might want the audience to know. Like, oh, we have an EP out, we have a song that you can download for free, we're playing this gig here.
Doing that is far more interesting than just doing it when there isn't a song playing.
Yeah, because when you're talking with no song playing and you're saying that kind of thing, it almost feels like a placeholder. People are just saying, right, play another song then. They didn't come to hear you talk, they came to hear you play music.
Please practice that in rehearsals. Like, don't just play 2 bars of it in rehearsal and then...
Yeah, practice the full song and exactly what is going to be said and where.
And the cue to coming back into the song.
Yeah. Usually, when a band does this, they'll probably extend the part of the song that they're going to speak in to give the singer more time to say what he needs to say. And obviously, you're going to need to rehearse that. Thing to try... Number 5. Buy a fucking tuner pedal. Your guitar is probably going to come out of tune at some point during your gig, and it looks unprofessional and shit if you're just stood there tuning it.
Or if you leave it. That's even worse. You just leave it out of tune.
Yeah, that's bad. You don't want your music to be out of tune. Buy a tuner pedal. You can buy one for like 20 quid. Probably even cheaper than that.
Yeah. Worst case result, you can buy a little thing that clips onto the head of your guitar, and they work really well. Just don't have your guitar running through your amp when you're tuning.
Yeah, and that's where tuner pedals come in handy, because they actually cut off all signal to your amp while you're tuning. So the audience isn't hearing you go... Thing to try, number 6.
That wasn't 6 fingers.
Thing to try, number 6. That's 6 fingers.
Alright, okay. I didn't see one of them in there. I apologise.
Have picks handy. It's very easy to drop your pick while you're playing. You're playing, you're getting into your music, your hands are getting sweaty, picks fly. Make sure you have some either in your pocket, stuck to your mic stand, or even you can buy one of those little pick holder things that sticks to your back of your guitar somewhere. Same goes for drummers as well. Have more drumsticks, because you drop your shit while you're on stage. Drummers can actually buy a little bag, like a stick holder, that fits onto your floor tom, which works really well. Drummers especially, because it's a lot easier for them to break a stick than it is for a guitarist to break the pick. Okay, things to avoid. You're going to notice there are a lot more things to avoid than things to try, and that is because there are so many little things that you can do terribly on a stage to make your band look crap, whereas there are very few things that you can do to look good. And I know that's not really fair, but that's the way it is. Okay, thing to avoid, number 1, stage death. This is where the stage is totally quiet for 5 seconds. After 5 seconds of silence, your audience has lost interest. Don't do that. Don't let those 5 seconds happen.
Therefore, practice everything.
Practice everything. The fluidity of your set completely. Thing to avoid, number 2.
There is thing to avoid.
Talking too much. If the audience wanted to hear you talk, they'd have gone and seen a comedy show. They haven't. They've come to a musical gig. They want to hear music. Don't talk too much. Say the bare essentials. Thing to avoid, number 3. Avoid overthinking how you're going to move about on stage. My way of thinking is that if you have to think about what it is that you're going to do, and if you're going to move about in a certain way, then your mind isn't in the right place to be playing that kind of music anyway. If you're really into the music that you're playing, then your body's just gonna do things. You're gonna find yourself moving about on stage as it is. That's if you're really into music. Thing to avoid, number 4. Introducing band members. We said this, I think I said this in the first ever video that we did, that maybe you could go around your band and introduce the other members and they could all do a little bit of a solo. You're going to introduce members of your band, that makes it seem more personal. If you're going to introduce each member of your band, then you could even give them like a little solo. Like you could introduce, that's Steve the drummer, and you could have like a little ba-dum. That is a terrible idea. No one cares about the members of the band, they just care if you play good music. Thing to avoid, number 5. Mumbling to the crowd. It's a very common thing when someone is nervous to talk really quickly and quietly into a microphone, and when you're talking into a microphone and it's coming out of a PA system, you can't hear what they're saying and it comes off as mumbling. That again looks really unprofessional, and people don't care about what you're saying because they can't hear it, and therefore it is not engaging them.
It's also worth saying that if you get super close to the mic, the bass frequencies of your voice are accentuated, which means that the mumbling will be even worse. Try and keep at least an inch away from the mic.
Yeah.
That worked with singing too, like, try not to get all up in the grill. I know it feels better to actually be touching the mic with your...
Also, as well, that being said, going off point a little bit, but if you're doing backing vocals, try and stand a little bit further back from that, so then the lead vocals are still louder, and the backing vocals are backing vocals, and they don't overshadow the lead.
And they feel a little bit more distant, which helps in the mix.
Thing to avoid, number 6.
See, that was a 6.
Inside jokes and any form of banter between the band members. If there's 4 members in your band and you're all friends, you're going to have little inside jokes that you make the fun out of each other about all the time. When you're doing that on the stage, the audience has got no idea what you're on about. So then when you're watching you make some kind of joke and then only you laugh at it, you look like a dickhead. Please don't do that.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Even if it doesn't feel embarrassing to you.
Yeah, it is. Don't do something on stage just because you've seen another band do it and it worked. What works for Blink-182 will not work for a small band.
I'd say anyone else, just because everybody knows Blink.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's obvious that you're ripping them off kind of thing.
Thing to avoid, number 7. Please, 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 do not try to get the audience to sing lyrics back to you that they don't know. If you're singing your songs to an audience and you are a relatively small band, there's a very high chance they're not going to know or care about your lyrics. Stop trying to engage people this way. If you try to get an audience to sing your own lyrics back to you that they don't know, they're not going to do it. They're not going to want to feel embarrassed in that way. They're not going to do it. And therefore, you're going to feel embarrassed because you're going to have to somehow segue back into the song. You're going to be like, oh yeah, sing my lyrics and we're going to go back into the song now. It just looks crap. Don't do it. Thing to avoid, number 8. Asking the audience to come forward. Unless you're really confident that the way you act and your mannerisms are going to get the audience to come forward, don't do it. If you come on stage and you're like, hey, we're this band from this city, would you mind coming forward, please? We don't bite. No one's going to do it. It's not engaging in any way. It's just a little bit pathetic, if you ask me. It seems really desperate and lonely, and that's not the vibes that people want when they go to see a band.
It's probably worth saying, actually. Most of these avoids are things that we did when we were in our old band. So we have kind of learnt from our experiences. This isn't us hating on other bands. We've done most of these and regret doing most of these.
We do. It made us look stupid, and hence why we're not in that band anymore.
We hope to not do them when we launch these new bands.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more about them, links in the top right.
Okay.
Shameless promo. I'm sorry.
Things to avoid. Number 9. Calling out mistakes that your fellow band members or yourself made. If your guitarist fumbled a few notes during your last song, why mention it? The audience probably didn't notice. The audience probably doesn't care. Thing to avoid.
I've got an extra thing to avoid.
Thing to avoid, number 10. Asking the crowd if they're alright after every song. If you end every song with, how we doing, Barnsley?
Don't do that. No, non-Americans are going to get that.
If you end every song with asking the audience how they are, it's going to get very tedious and very boring very quickly, so don't do it. It seems almost a placeholder of something to say. Like, a lot of singers say it when they haven't got anything to say. And if you haven't got anything to say, don't say anything and play the next song.
Do you know what I see it as?
What?
People needing the justification that they're good.
Yeah, I suppose if you say... I suppose a lot of bands say, how you doing? Hoping for a cheer back to give them some kind of...
Dick rub.
Dick rub, yeah. Some kind of confirmation that they're doing a good job. I suppose it's a singer's way of gauging how the crowd are responding, because on a lot of stages you can't actually see the crowd. But there are better ways to do it than that. Okay, I need your finger. Thing to avoid, number 11. Playing music that you're not that into. If you have a song in your set that you don't feel is as good as the other songs, let your other band members know, and then hopefully you can drop it. If you're playing a song that you're not really that into, the audience is going to know that you're not that into it, and it is going to really drag your performance down. It's going to make you feel embarrassed playing the song. It's going to make the audience embarrassed for you, even. If you're in a band and that band's music isn't what the music that you want to be making, then don't be in that band. Don't force yourself to play music that you don't like.
We ended it on a bit of a downer. We ended it with 11 avoids.
Well, as I said, there are a lot more bad things you can do on stage than good. But if you do the good things that we've said, then hopefully your stage performance will be good.
On point. Right, if anyone watching now, like, clicks on articles that's like, 10 things that only 90s kids will understand, please stop doing that.
Yeah,
because
what are you doing?
That's the reason why they keep posting this shit, is because people keep clicking on it and they're earning ad revenue from it, so please don't.
Read interesting things.
Yeah, pretty much anything posted by BuzzFeed tends to be that kind of crap, so please don't. That was your public service announcement for the day.
Have a good evening.
You're a bit close, that made your face look a little bit scary.
Okay, have a good evening.
That's exactly the same.
Have a good evening.
That's better, but...